Thank you very much, guys. Thank you very much for your patience. It wouldn't be a technology conference without technology problems. So we're off to a great start. Okay, so Finposium 2025, Gen AI and Finance. If you're not here for that, then go to another room. Find your spot, okay? But this is what we're doing. So we got the conference and hackathon, and away we go. This is me. I don't need to bore you with who I am, but I'd like to thank Queen's University for providing the facility and a lot of the materials and support that you see. So we really appreciate all their support here, as well as Desjardins is providing support for us as well. There are many more people viewing from home than there are actually in the room right now. And you'll see that the room ebbs and flows as people go in and out. And there's a reason for that. This is the room map. There are a number of working groups. So some people are here to connect with others and to be part of a working group. The idea is that in many conferences, you walk through, you listen to a speaker, you walk out, and you actually don't connect with the people you really want to connect with. So the idea is to give you the opportunity to sit down in a smaller room and talk to some of the people that are focused in the same area as you, that are interested with you. And maybe that means you find a co-founder. Maybe that means you find a support, an investor, whatever, a friend to guide you, an advisor, whatever it is. So that's the purpose of this. Here is the room map. You all have a handout, which hopefully has this handout in it as well. You'll notice a couple things. There's a quiet room. If you need to type, you need to go find a place where you need to work for a little while, there's a spot, and that's in pink. The meeting room, if you just want to meet with others, that's not a quiet room, but you can meet with them, and that's available to you at all times, and that's room 108. 109, 119, 117, 118, the green, red, yellow, and purple. These are going to be, you can use them when they're not being used for other purposes, but this is where many of the small groups will take place, where you can get together and talk to some of those people if you want to. And it may just be that it's one or two people. And many times, the most important business trips you have, it's actually only one connection you really need to make, okay? So this is the schedule for today. Hopefully you have it. We're going to have lots of networking and coffee. We'll do an introduction. We'll have a keynote speaker that's adjusted a little bit, and we'll adjust for the timelines here a little bit, but we're probably going to try and stick to this pretty closely. Then we're really fortunate that we have, Michael Tom from the CFA Society. He's a managing director for Canada. And we have Graham Walker, Andrew McKinney, and Braden Dennis, who is going to do the talk, is also going to sit in on that, so you can ask him some more questions from here. And then we're going to do our hackathon finalists. We had a hackathon. We'll explain that more later on. And then again, have a little break. We'll come back and we'll do our next and last roundtable with some excellent guests, Eva Wong, Jason Parker, and Jeremy Dietz. Eva from Borrowell, a co-founder. Jason runs, I think, hundreds of billions of dollars in terms of fixed income. He'll have to correct me on that one. But he's a very savvy, technology-focused investor. And then Jeremy Dietz focusing on digital applications in crypto and DeFi. So the rooms, as we explained, there are working groups. You've all chosen, have been forced to select your working groups that you wanted to get into. You're welcome to do it. You're welcome to not. You can go in and check out different groups, knock on doors, meet different people. These are there. They're in your pamphlet as well. So I'm going to give a little talk about Gen AI and what's happening with Gen AI. Just in terms of a show of hands, who uses Gen AI here? So most people are utilizing that. That was surprising. Previously, when I said I used to teach courses on AI proper, like reinforcement learning and coding in Python, and very few people actually had access to it. ChatGPT makes it almost ubiquitous, right? Everyone has access to this. And that's profound, because that's the applications that are going to come out of that will be very, very significant, and it will happen very, very quickly. If you look at the adoption of new technology, usually new technologies take a very long time to percolate through cell phones, microwaves, dishwashers. These kinds of innovations took decades to get through and to really take traction. This is one that is having huge traction right away. So when we're thinking about Gen AI, I mean, AI is this process of automation. We get cognitive insights. We get better cognitive engagement, right? And we want to get rid of inefficient tasks. We know that there are lots, right? Incredible amounts of inefficiency and silly things that we're doing. The idea is that many corporations, many institutions, public and private, can unlock a huge amount of value, can reduce, reduce barriers, reduce problems for people by utilizing this technology. But Gen AI is special. It's this type of AI that can create new content as well, text, images, videos, based upon data. I mean, it learns from large data sets and large language models, and the videos, these creations are based upon data. And actually, the interesting part is it's very hard to get the same creation twice because of the statistical nature of AI. So again, we looked at, probably about 90% of the people in the room understand the power of Gen AI. The question is, how do we utilize it? I mean, it can help us with predictions. It can help us with, making sense of large amounts of data, finding opportunities within that. Now, that's wonderful in finance because that gives us a great edge in many ways to create new products or services, to tap into new markets. Marketing and sales, incredible power there, right? You can create videos and sales content. I'm not saying it's necessarily perfect or great, but you can create the bedrock of that in seconds, whereas previously that was months or weeks or days that it would take you to do that. So generating new ideas and new content, we're just at the beginning. We're at stage one, or the first inning, or the first period if it's a hockey game, okay? We are going to have many more levels to come. And Gen AI, for many people, is the beginning of AGI, right? Artificial general intelligence, where a computer can operate at or better than a human can. So remember in the backdrop that this is a train, that we aren't at a destination. We are in a process, in an immense process of innovation and disruption. So the automation of decisions, things like approving loans, used to take, weeks. Lots of work was done in some of these areas to, facilitate, to make good decisions. Now these can happen in a much faster way. Trading, selling, bidding on things, evaluating things, understanding the implications, the knock-on effects of certain events, very powerful tools. And then there are also the financial and non-financial applications, right? And this is the one that the hackathon was really about. And why are we concerned about retirement? Anyone concerned about retirement? I really want to retire well, and I don't want huge amounts of inflation, right? Because people are getting poorer, much, much poorer than they were in the past. Inflation of 20, 30% over the pandemic and wages staying the same means that is a loss of wealth for everyone in perpetuity. Your investments must keep up with that. What's the other problem? The actuarial tables all suggest we are going to live longer and longer, right? They are always being increased. The only time in the last century where it went down was a statistical artifact because of COVID. Because people were, unfortunately, we had a huge loss of life at that time. But in terms of the trend, it is older and older. And many of you here, if you have hit 40 years old and you do not have a major health condition, you are more likely to live to 100 than not. Now that's incredible when you think about retirement at age 65 or 60 or freedom 55. So what's your retirement plan? Why is that? We can do a lot of things with retirement. Automating investments, automating deposits, avoiding poor decision making. This is one. Why is this relevant? Lottery wins a retirement plan for 34% of respondents for Canada. So why is that a problem? Mathematically, that's a huge problem. There just isn't enough money. Liquidation value of CPP and QPP altogether, all the major pension plans, is about $19,000 per person. So I don't know about you, but it takes me more than $19,000 per year, let alone for your lifetime. If you think about it, 65 to 100, 35 years, and it's advancing even further. It's not to say we're going to stop there. It's likely that many people are going to hit 120. So problems. The other problems, why don't people invest? Why don't they retire? Literacy, numeracy, they don't understand the numbers. They don't understand, they're not financially literate. Financial literacy is a special type of literacy. But literacy, in fact, is very poor. There's an educational problem. Most people, if you hand them the Globe and Mail and say, they will say they qualify as being literate because they can read a sentence. And the sentence they have to read is, the dog jumps over the fence. And if you read that, you are literate. And the problem with that is if you hand them Newsweek or you hand them the Globe and Mail or the New York Times, and you say, read this article and tell me what the author really means in the subtext. They don't know, and they are incapable of doing that. People are reading less and less, and literacy is a huge problem. So finding solutions to get across to people the need to address this, the need to understand that you're going to have to work to be able to retire for 30 plus years potentially, or else you're going to have to change what you do and how you do it. So hopefully Gen AI can help with some of these ideas. And here are some of the challenges. Gen AI is, always will be, driven by data. Super powerful. But here's the problem with data. If you look at it, this is just, a byte is a single character. Right? Kilobyte, it's a short story. Megabyte, a novel. Gigabyte, it's like a pickup truck filled with paper. A terabyte is 10% of the printed collection of the US Library of Congress. Petabyte is 50% of all US academic research. And if you say an exabyte, 20% of all words ever spoken by human beings. That's the order of magnitude. This is the challenge. In 2005, there were in the entirety of history, but 130 exabytes had been created. 130. We are now well beyond 160,000. So orders of magnitude of data have happened in the last 20 years alone. So what does that mean? What's the problem? Well, it's a wonderful opportunity. We now know much more about human beings. We know about how they behave, how they interact, the phone calls they make, where they are in the world, what do they eat, how do they work out, what's their heart rate, are they about to have a heart attack or not? We can know a lot of things about people with the tools we have now. The problem is it's a very short period of time. And so it's deep, but it's not very long, right? And so if we wanted to understand something better, you would have to say, does this data set make sense given, given the historical context, right? If you take different historical contexts, there are weird times. And we, in this world, have been in a weird financial condition since 2007, 2008, where we've been dealing with crisis after crisis today, and the same extreme monetary and government policies have kicked in. So we are in a weird time, but we have a lot of data about that. And the other parts, the problems of the past, will be glossed over. So all historical data prior to 2005 only accounts for 0.08% of the available data set. That is a rounding error. That's all of history not being included, right? So we have challenges with this technology, given the bedrock of data that we have, right? And this is just an example to show you how sometimes AI can give us good insights, give us good heuristics, good rules for how do we make decisions. So imagine this room. In this room, we've got two doors. Imagine that you're sitting here, right? And you've got an issue. There's a fire alarm. We have to get out of this room. And at the back door, there's a wolf. And at the front door, there's this dog. You have to choose. You have to get out of the room. You can smell smoke in the distance, right? What do you do? Which door to go to? Anyone? Wolf, you're laughing. What's it?
From the dog.
Pick the dog. Got a better chance with dog. Are you kidding? Come on, how many people? You probably would want to pet the dog, wouldn't you? I mean, most people, just no question. You got a wolf sitting there, you're going to tell me you're going to go to the wolf? Everything in your being is going to tell you that that's wrong, right? But is it? Fatal dog attacks. Huge number. If you actually look at it, fatalities per year, wolves are massively less dangerous than dogs. Dogs kill and bite. They kill many people every year. They bite millions per year. In terms of actual wolf attacks in Canada, how many have there been in history? Since recorded history, 2. One of which was the wolf was starving to death, right? These are animals that are afraid, are inherently afraid of humans. They want nothing to do with us. How do I know this? I went to a wolf sanctuary and they loaded my pockets with chicken. And I thought, are you serving me to these wolves as I walk in? And you literally couldn't throw it far enough for them to come to you. The closest of this pack of wolves, there were 4 wolves in this big kind of large enclosure. It was like a kilometer. The closest they would come was about 100 meters away. So you had to throw it. All your instincts are wrong. And that has to do with our perception of things, a perception of danger. Massively safer. The wolf, you'd go to it right away. Why? Because that wolf will run away from you. That pit bull may be very aggressive and used to humans, and they kill many people each year. Why do we think that way? I blame Liam Neeson. You can blame whoever you want, but look, this fiction never happened. It's an absurdity. It's a story we tell. It's story tales. And we live our lives sometimes with stories in our mind. The biases that we have about what we're told of Peter and the Wolf or all of the nursery rhymes. Think about it very carefully. The boy who cried wolf never happened, right? So these biases, look at this one. I don't know if you can see it very well, but on this one, you have A and B. Which one's darker? Which one's darker? They are the same. But everything in your stomach tells you they're not, right? So if we make a quick decision, that will give us the wrong answer. So you're absolutely right. They're the same color. But we have a perception issue. The perception of things is that we know what a checkerboard looks like. We know this is a chessboard, checkerboard, whatever. We know what it looks like, and we think we get a good understanding. We know that there's consistency of this, right? But that, in fact, is not true. But it has to do with whether our biases come through and impact the reliability of our assessments. That can happen in AI as well, right? There are challenges with that. It is something for us to be aware of as AI takes over more and more of the daily decisions that we make, or even some of the more complicated decisions that we make. We need to be ensured that they're doing this in a safe and competent way. So with that, that's the brief introduction. Why do we having this conference? Gen AI is a powerful disruptive technology, and it is very important for all of us in finance, and in fact, in every industry, to be aware of that. And for us in finance, we must be aware of all the other subsectors that we're looking at. We look at all the different industries because every industry is going to be impacted. And that is something we need to be aware of to understand how will the different industries, how will the sectors or subsectors of the industries be impacted? Because that affects our investments, it affects how we operate, it affects what we invest in, strategies. Is there our portfolio? Do we need to adjust it for one thing or another? We have to be aware of this because it is so powerful, right? So we have some great speakers today, and we are strangely on time. Shockingly so. So I'm going to come back later on. I'll be introducing and talking to people, but the first person we're going to talk to today is Braden Dennis. He's going to talk to us, give us a presentation on what he does and how he does it. He runs an interesting, very innovative new platform for APIs and of the application of AI to the financial markets called finchat.io. Have a look at the website. It's very interesting. And it's growing in importance. So with that, we're going to briefly break to get Braden up here, and then I'm going to pull up his presentation. He will go from there. After that, we'll get a coffee, network, have a chat with each other, and go from there. All right. So with that, I am going to pause here unless we have any questions before we begin, but good to go. All right, great. So let's pause for a moment, and then we'll have Braden Dennis coming up in just a second. I guess I'll just briefly introduce Braden. Braden is the co-founder and CEO of Finchat.io, a leading platform for financial data and AI-powered insights. He's also the co-founder behind some of Canada's top business podcasts under the Canadian Investor Podcast Network. Engineering by trade, Braden seeks to level the playing field for financial information using technology. Braden, welcome, and come on up, and we will pull this up for you. Thank you.
Some finance-related AI thoughts. And then I also have Thanksgiving dinner fun facts because everyone loves a know-it-all at Thanksgiving dinner. And I think there's some things behind the scenes with AI that we've taken for granted a little bit when you have that, magical ChatGPT moment, like what's happening behind the scenes? How is that possible? A little bit about me. I'll take the next 2 minutes to brag about myself, and then I'll shut up after that. So this was last week. I had last month, I had the pleasure of opening the Toronto Stock Exchange. And here's me, that's my dad on the left. We're all excited. I got to press the big button. And for me, this was like a lifetime dream vision of opening the stock market, right? It's like so exciting. And the reason I wanted to pick this photo is because it's badass, of course. But more importantly, this was literally my dream 5 years ago when I was trying to hack away on building a business. And things compound so fast. They compound. People here are in finance. What was like impossible, humans can't think about in exponential terms. And so on Monday, this coming Monday, I'm opening the market again. And then I'm closing the market on Wednesday. And then I'm flying to New York City, and I'm doing it in the New York Stock Exchange with Google. And so like these things, they compound. So like what was a vision is now like just a regular Tuesday. So I'm trying not to take too much of it for granted. So I am the co-founder and CEO of a company called FinChat. We're a Toronto-based AI fintech. We provide investors with financial data, software. It's really a financial data terminal for everybody. So we serve institutional investors, advisors, sophisticated retail, anyone. And we actually just closed our Series A. So we now have 13 million USD in venture funding. The company's around 33 people as of today and growing. And then, as mentioned before, I started the Canadian Investor Podcast Network. I don't frequent the shows anymore, but I still own the company. It's the Canadian Real Estate Investor and the Canadian Investor Podcast. They have over 5 million downloads now. So if you want to go check out some finance podcasts, they are pretty cool. Okay, so this is a kind of the value stack map for AI technology. So like I'll get into finance specific, but I think this is pretty relevant for everyone to understand. So starting at the very bottom of like how things happen to the end user who is actually getting the value from using AI. So it all starts with energy, power, the electrons, the power that we're generating at the power facilities here in Ontario. For instance, maybe we can start with an early Thanksgiving fun fact. Who knows how the power in Ontario is made? Just roughly, like what is the number one source of power generation in Ontario? Anyone?
Water.
Second before nuclear. About 50% of power in Ontario is run by nuclear reactors. Quebec, 100% water. Manitoba, 100% water. Ontario, we have this huge, massive power demand in the city of Toronto and the Greater Toronto area that in the 60s, we invented our own nuclear reactor in Pickering, Ontario, called the Canadian Deuterium Uranium Reactor. And it is still today the safest nuclear technology in the world. So we have nuclear reactors in Bowmanville, Pickering, and Kincardine in Ontario. So a lot of people don't realize how close to home some of these amazing reactors are here in Ontario. So power is required. I think people have been throwing around the fact that the stat that it's around 20 times more energy hungry for a ChatGPT query than a Google search. So we need to ramp up more and more power. Okay, so after that, semiconductors, okay? Semiconductors are these tiny chips with 9 nanometer wires on them that are able to transist power and compute over these little tiny microscopic chips. And everyone knows NVIDIA, right? NVIDIA has designed the most advanced GPU. And GPU was built for gaming. It was built for gamers to have the best rendering of graphics processing on their video games. And that's what NVIDIA's business was. When we were trying to figure out how we can have compute happen in parallel instead of series, it turns out these GPUs were actually the best tech for it. So NVIDIA started making, boatloads. I think they're expected to do $55 billion a quarter in just data center revenue. Okay, so that brings you up to the LLMs. The people buying these in mass are kind of the data centers and the cloud computing and large language models. So the large language models are OpenAI, Anthropic, Claude, open source, Google Gemini, DeepSeek from China. There's a long growing list now. And they rely on data centers and compute players, which are basically massive warehouses of computers. The large players in North America here are Amazon, Google, Microsoft. Okay, now to the top of the stack, because unless you have $100 billion to spend, the bottom here is not relevant to most people. It's just not. Unless you're putting up a power plant or a data center or designing the next GPU, most people at the application level are looking at data and software. So I'm going to spend most of the presentation on data and software. So what people are interacting with on the software side, what people are looking at in terms of new data sources, how to use AI to aggregate new data sources. All right. Thanksgiving fun fact number 2. Does anyone know what that is on the left side of the screen? I mean, it's literally a title for it, but I don't know how useful that title is. Does anyone know what that is? That is an extreme ultraviolet lithography machine from a company out of the Netherlands called ASML. ASML, you can know as the most important company in the world that 99.9% of people have never heard of. It is a 300 billion in market cap company, so it's top 15 largest, most valuable businesses in the world. Most people have never ever heard of it. They make about 50 of these a year. The most advanced extreme ultraviolet lithography machines cost nearly $400 million each. So, about 4 times the price of a Boeing 737 jet. And they are immense. Now, what they do is they shoot a laser at a microscopic piece of molten tin so that it can refract at the smallest little size so that we can transist on a semiconductor these little lines that you could wrap around the earth many, many times on this tiny little piece of wafer. And the reason that's important is because there is so much compute happening on these microscopic level little chips, and there's only one company in the world that makes them, and it's ASML. So every time you interact with your phone, anytime you turn on Apple CarPlay, you can know that there's this company in the Netherlands that made the technology possible for every single advanced chip that's made on Earth today. This company is going to be, if you haven't heard of it before, people are going to start talking about it more because it is actually in my opinion, geopolitical threat for China, the US, in terms of like, who gets to own this, right? Like, who gets to own this technology? Now China's building their own extreme ultraviolet lithography with, it's hard to say which success. Now, the reason I bring that up is because all of these players below what I'll call horizontal companies serving a lot of different industries rely on the technology from them, NVIDIA, Taiwan Semiconductor, who makes all the chips. So that's what I'll call horizontal technology. Again, at the top of the stack, software, data, very vertical. So this is happening for every single vertical, for finance, for, pick an industry. There's a vertical there that someone's going to make money from it. And, cherry picked my company in both categories, of course. But software on the finance side, there's companies like AlphaSense. There's companies like ours that are touching the end user. And then there's data companies. FactSet is a 13,000 person employee company. 9,000 of them do manual data collection with humans. We're going to do it all. We are doing it all with computers. And so that's another example there where we're touching both sides of the stack on finance being end user as well as the data in terms of how people are interacting with it. So this is the area you want to spend most of your time in. Again, unless you have a few $1 billion in your pocket to create the next, data center compute AWS cluster. All right, fun fact number 3. Raise your hand if you've heard that Google's falling behind in AI. Right? That's the consensus hot take right now. That was true about 3 months ago. This is the Hugging Face API developer rankings, which is basically every developer is ranking their pick on which API they think is the most consistent, has the best results, the best cost per token. And Google Gemini is now has 5 of the top 11 models. O3 is OpenAI, ChatGPT is OpenAI, Grok is Elon's XAI thing, then GPT again, Gemini. They're about 20 times cheaper than OpenAI too. And so the reason for this slide is things are changing really, really fast. And which model people are recommending to you today, I wouldn't get so latched on to what must be the best in the future. Because Gemini sucked 6 months ago. And now it's incredible. So what might be the best today is going to change a lot tomorrow. I think is like what's really useful in your workflow is to be kind of like on the market. You got to flirt with a bunch of them, right? Like, don't get pigeonholed into one of these models because I think that there's going to be change. Okay, so back to the vertical piece of this. This is where large enterprises and startups are introducing vendors. This is where there's opportunity. So if you're working at a big bank, you're working at an insurance company, these are the types of companies that people are interested in learning more about. And adjacently to that is if you are looking at building new ideas and new companies in AI, this is the place to play. Does anyone know what Y Combinator is? Y Combinator? Yeah, okay. Y Combinator, for those who don't know, is a startup incubator out of Silicon Valley that has had an incredibly good hit rate. People go there for 3-4 months. They go live in California from all over the world, and they work on their startup. They pitch it at the end of the 3-4 months. Stripe, Airbnb, Instacart, God, the list is amazing. I think there's now over 20 unicorns that have come out of a unicorn, meaning over $1 billion valuation from Y Combinator. Every year they have their call for startups saying, we have these 10 ideas. And if you are building any 10 of these ideas, you're going to have a really good chance of getting into Y Combinator. So you can pitch us on any idea, but if you happen to have an idea in these 10 areas, we're very interested. All 10 of them fit in the top of this stack. All 10 of them. So vendors are coming to them and going, can you please incubate? Can you please start a startup that does this? It does this one piece of our workflow for us. It takes our bill of lading in the warehouse that 8 people are working on full time, takes it and puts it into our database with AI. Like simple stuff that, is happening in industry real time right now, is where I think is probably the most interesting. Now, the companies below horizontally, they're going to accrue a lot of value from it too, of course, right? It's kind of like a bit of the rich get richer situation here because they've built out this capital expenditure. I think I have to look, but Amazon spent over $100 billion last year in capital expenditures on just data center. Not a lot of people can compete with that. All right, here's my unofficial, oversimplified AI timeline. November 2022 feels like a distant moment now. The ChatGPT moment had. I would give it a useful rating of about 9 out of 10. It was the first time where you're like, oh, I have to put together a contractor agreement, or like, I have this lease agreement that someone just sent me. I'll throw it through ChatGPT and they'll tell me if I need to look at anything in here. It was kind of like a first-year university student for a lot of things. It's like kind of the intern, right? It's really good at a lot of things, but not great at everything. But at the time, I'd give that a useful rating of about 9 out of 10. 2023 is the chat with everything era. I would give that a 3 out of 10 usefulness. It didn't really build off of the momentum, in my opinion. 2024, AI is now creative. It's mainstream. It writes code. People have heard of this vibe coding ordeal here, where you literally can tell the computer to build you things, can code for you, creates images, videos. Some of them are a bit creepy. LLM plus search, amazing. As soon as these companies integrated search with the LLM, it became extremely, extremely useful. That's when my queries started to drift from Google, right? Like as soon as search got in there, it's like, okay, now it just gave me all the research I have to do, all the blue links I'm going to click in, and just did it in 1 second. So I'd give that around a useful rating about 8 of 10. 2025, agents, agentic. This is the new hot buzzword in AI, agentic. It's a really fancy word for AI actually doing something from start to finish. That's when someone says, oh, I'm building an agentic platform. What they mean by that is instead of me querying ChatGPT, it's a tool that'll say, okay, I need the computer to do this. That's going to take 20 steps. it's going to go off and then go do the entire project start to finish. So it'll break it down into steps. It'll break it down into reasoning. It'll question its logic. It'll go, okay, the user says this, I might need to try 8 things and then come back and it's checking its work along the way. So now it's like, instead of the intern being your assistant, it's now maybe the junior person completing work start to finish, right? And that's kind of the next step. I'd give this a useful rating of about 6 out of 10 currently, but it has the potential to be a 10 out of 10 usefulness. For something to go from 0 to complete in one prompt is amazing. I'm getting married next year, and it's like I got to make like this invite list, right? It's like I gotta make this stupid website. I vibe coded the whole thing in like 5 minutes, and it works perfectly. It takes everyone's emails, sends in a little fancy invitation. I said, I don't like how this looks. I know my fiance is going to think this looks way too much like I made it. So I'll make it, put some flowers on there. Boom, 5 minutes is perfect. It does exactly what I need to do. Who knows who the guys on the left side of the screen are? Buffett Munger? Yes. I took this photo at the last Berkshire Hathaway meeting before Charlie Munger's passing just a few months later at the age of 99. Last Saturday on his left, Warren Buffett just stepped down as the CEO of Berkshire Hathaway at the age of 94. These guys are the greatest of all time investors, bar none. They're the Wayne Gretzky's of investing. They're the Michael Jordan of excellence. And I think that they laid out my vision for financial research for the future. I think they built that 70 years ago. And what I mean by that is Warren Buffett doesn't use a computer. He's the best of all time, doesn't use a computer. And so he just built this system around him to give him information that he can sit and think all day long. He built the system around him for Berkshire Hathaway for him to just be able to create a few decisions for himself. So what we're doing with FinChat is we look at an analyst who might spend, they grab their coffee at 1, 2 p.m. and go build out their model for the next 2 hours and look through 30 10 Qs to get all of the data that they need in their spreadsheet, when AI can do it with perfect accuracy in 3 milliseconds. That's our vision for the future is a lot less paperwork. It's more like, okay, let me just synthesize these decisions. Let me go meet with more clients. Let me go grow my business and not like live in Excel all day. And so the agentic AI has the real possibility of delivering on this promise for what I believe to be the system of excellence these guys built 7 years ago with no computers. I'll give you a real life example. Our competitors that I've mentioned before, they do it manually. They manually enter in data. I like to call them data sweatshops because it gets them a little angry. But they are, right? They are. They're people manually entering data all day long. And so since we're doing it with computers live and there's no delay, Perplexity chose us over these big billion-dollar companies to provide them with financial data real time. So we announced this last week. I'm calling it, like I called the press release like the golden era of information, because people are able to get what they want real time and there's no delay. They don't have to look for external sources. If all of the data is available to the public, that means the public should have access to it. And the traditional ways of getting this data has been pay really expensive licensing fees. Really, really expensive licensing fees that only the elite institutions have the money for. It's all public data. It's all available in the public domain, but they had to build these systems to aggregate it. What we're doing is obviously highly disruptive. I have some other tangible examples. So we built this amazing Copilot in 2023, and then people think we stole it from Microsoft, but I'm sure they didn't steal it from us, but we had it first. The tangible example that I want to give you guys today is just a really basic one, which is we built this really, really complex system. And then we had hedge fund analysts come to us and go, dude, I just want to summarize the transcript. I don't need you to do all this really complex stuff. I just need to summarize. I don't want to read it. So I just need you to summarize it. And we're like, okay, I think we lost the script a little bit. Let's go back to basics here, where here's a Walmart press release they came out with in April 2025. And I put in a custom prompt on the right that just says, tell me all their concerns around tariffs and how it's going to affect their business. That might take the analyst to listen or read that transcript of maybe 15, 20 minutes, maybe more to give it back to their portfolio manager. This is just a few seconds of work, right? And just synthesizing it to its most basic ideas. So this is technology that's been around for a long time. I think it's a good example of what customers actually want. We built the Ferrari and they wanted the Honda. So we're now implementing the Honda everywhere across the platform. This is Tobias Lütke is the founder and CEO of Shopify. Obviously, an amazing Canadian success story. And he's really good at marketing. So what he did was he posted this and said, this was our leaked internal memo, but he posted it. Really good idea, because then it creates instant controversy and gets people thinking and gets them emotional about his leaked memo to the company. But he literally just posted it. The summary of this email that he put together was, you are not allowed to hire at Shopify today if you can't prove that it can't be done with AI. No more hiring unless you can prove that it can be done with AI. And for people who are looking in the job market, that is deflating, right? You're like, oh my God, I'm trying to get a job. And this guy is literally posting that, don't even think about it unless AI can do it for you. So it's a bit deflating, but it's the reality. And that's why I want to give 3 tips to take away on how to position yourself here, because we can complain about technological revolution. I think every generation has their technology window change, and you got to position yourself for it. It's just the reality. The only constant is change. Here's a fun fact. Hedge funds are now hiring more machine learning engineers than finance grads. So not going to the finance grad department, they're going to the machine learning engineers. And so I know a lot of finance majors who are learning to code right now, or learning how to vibe code, or making themselves technical, I think is probably the right thing, because the age of them just coming in and being managers is not going to happen anymore. They need to actually contribute. Quant firms like Citadel, Two Sigma, Rentech are essentially tech companies. I don't think it's been more important now to learn those skills than ever before. Positioning yourself, number 2, become the internal go-to person when it comes to AI vendors that people are checking out and flirting with. VanEck Asset Management is a New York 120 billion AUM firm. They're a large customer of ours. They actually became investors after they onboarded us as well. So that was another vote of confidence. So to power their 50 analysts, the analyst that brought us forward to Jon VanEck himself, the man with the name on the door in New York there, he brought us to them. They picked us. He now leads their AI efforts internally. So he was a probably 5-year analyst, and now he's head of AI. That's a big, big promo for an asset manager of 120 billion of AUM. So him kind of being the guy that knew all the players in the space really got him forward. This is my last slide. Naval Ravikant, very famous in the Valley, investor, entrepreneur, thought leader. I really like this tweet, which is, paperwork isn't work. The robots can have it, which is basically, if there are all of the things that we really want to latch onto with humans in terms of jobs, is paperwork really the one? Because right now, knowledge work with AI is coming straight for paperwork's throat. And every technological innovation, all the way back to the railroads, has led to more work, not less. It hasn't been You know, when they came out with the car, everyone was worried about what the horses are going to do. What are the horses going to do? That was like a real concern back then. Every single time we have come up with more work to do. It hasn't been less work. People are more busy now than ever. Employment's at an all-time low. Look, I mean, there's a difference in reality and headlines over the next few years, especially with AI and the numbers around employment and stuff like that. So I don't think paperwork's the one that we really want to latch onto, and that's probably the area over the next 2 years that gets chewed up the most. So I don't know. I really like this quote. Paperwork isn't work. The robots can have it. That's it. Open for any questions.
Who has a question? Anyone have a question for him, please? Yeah, can we get you a mic? That's the only thing.
Yep. I can just walk.
I'll see if I should. We'll just do it.
Okay.
We can, because we have a lot more people.
Sure. Is there online questions too?
Yeah.
I can answer a couple.
Ask for you.
Hi, thank you for that. That was very insightful. I guess my first question, or my only question would be, for someone who is graduating in this new industry, in this changing industry, should I say, and maybe from an economics or finance or business background, maybe masters in software isn't something that one would go into directly. So how would you recommend diversifying and positioning oneself in that market, if not for that technical experience that you would necessarily achieve in a master's or postgraduate program?
Great question. So it's if I could paraphrase, I'm in a master's. You're suggesting I learn technical skills. I'm not going to go learn them through a software engineering degree because of where I'm at. What do I do? Is that kind of the
Well, if not for the master's,
right?
then what's the alternative?
My co-founder, Kevin, learned how to code completely by himself in 2021. We started the company in 2022 together. He has the least amount of technical experience of anyone in our company on paper. He still puts out more code than anyone else, than the entire development team almost combined. Like it was all of it combined up until like, employee 12. Like that's how cracked this guy is. And so I don't think it's really around like, oh, I need to go get those skills. You're in an amazing position if you finish with a like MBA from here. But I do think messing around with those tools and understanding that the computer now can write code for you today without having to go, like it's such an advantage for you, if anything. That's what I mean around like, there's always going to be technological change, but this is a good one to ride, if anything, in my opinion, when it comes to change, because you don't have to learn those software engineering skills. You already have the domain finance experience and skills, which you can then apply vertically with this new technology. I mean, people are building entire companies without knowing how to code now. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Cursor, Windsurf, Replit, ChatGPT, Claude, they'll write entire things for you. But you have to know what you want, right? So that's your advantage. Hopefully that helps.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Oh, anyone. I saw his hand first.
Wanted to find out in the future and even now, the what one receives in terms of remuneration for one's work. Will work be more along the lines of thinking than doing? And when you get that's the premium, is thinking and solving bigger problems rather than just doing work, which is just doing.
Right. So it's kind of like busy work versus like complete, like objectively useful work. If I understand correctly. Is that, yeah. Okay, so the question is, does this allow us to solve more complex problems because the inputs are already maybe the busy paperwork, those inputs are already completed for me potentially.
You get paid for doing that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's like the Buffett Munger slide, right? Like those guys got paid for their ability to make decisions and think, and just really only a few decisions a day. Jeff Bezos comes into his work day and he said, if I have to make more than 3 decisions today, I've done something wrong. Like I haven't built the right system around me if Bezos has to make more than 3 decisions per day, right? Because there should really only be that like a few key decisions he has to make for the company to keep moving forward, at scale. So I think if the busy work, like say you're an analyst and all the modeling can be done for you with one click of a button, my 8-hour day, maybe 6 of it was just to get to a point where those 2 hours where I can think. Now you have all 8 hours to think, and then maybe there's a client lunch, there's a client, happy hour that you can go to and grow the business, right? Get more assets. So I think it's amazing, right? Like your 8-hour day, maybe 6 of it was busy work. Now maybe an hour or 2 of it is.
To follow up on that, do you think you should buy this? Yeah, just to follow up, do you think even junior people will have to think like a CEO because the thinking, the compute, the human brain power would have to be utilized right from the get-go. And so the organizations are going to be, I mean, right now a lot of like big companies have hierarchical, but there will be more like startups where it'll be as flat as can be because you're expected to have in-depth thinking abilities right from day one, similar to what the CEO would have or executives.
I mean, aspirationally, I don't think that that's different now. I think that that's a great goal aspirationally for anyone in their career 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and now. It's like a high agency person puts them in a situation where their boss doesn't need to rely on them constantly to make decisions and execute. They gain trust in the organization. I don't think that that's any different today, honestly. I think it's more of the same.
Hi, my name is Peter Lee. So, thank you for your presentation. It was really inspiring and insightful. And obviously, congratulations on your wedding next year.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, as someone that loves startups, I'm very curious what got you inspired to create this company? What really got you there?
I wish it was a little bit more of a fun story, but I wanted Yahoo Finance on steroids. And so I started building it in 2020. And then now it's kind of come into its own. And this, like, now we're being a financial data infrastructure company. We're powering a lot of the different AI companies now. Like I talking about the Perplexity announcement that we just had with deals with them. But it was really just Yahoo Finance on steroids was the idea. And it's pivoted. And I realized all the value in the stack was accruing to the big incumbents. So we've had to build competing data infrastructure aggregation to make them really dance.
And also, I wanted to add, how did you get your team at first? How did you meet your co-founder?
Yeah, okay, well, that's actually a fun story. I have 3 co-founders, so there's 4 of us. I met Adrian, our COO. He was putting together data structures for a bunch of public companies. And I found him on Twitter. He was anonymous. I thought he was going to be like, I don't know, like Bangladesh or something. He was just an anonymous Twitter account. He lived 10 minutes from my house. Just complete fluke. Kevin, we bought his company when we started the company. So that was an interesting one. And Ryan, our CTO, we've been best friends since we were 10.
That's amazing. Thank you.
Wait for the mic.
Regarding your terminal, is it mostly just fundamental data, or do you also have like technical?
It's exclusively fundamental.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Are you going to be adding technical as well in the future potentially, like order flow or?
Never say never, but we'll probably move to fundamentals for other asset classes first, like
Yeah.
credit.
Makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, credit, privates.
Yeah.
We look at ourselves as like an information company, so we're aggregating information from first party sources.
Okay.
But never say never on technicals. There's a huge demand for that. I just
Sure.
think most of the problems have been solved.
Yeah.
For them.
I
already.
disagree.
Yeah, okay. Well, I don't know it as well too,
Okay.
right? So there's also like founder market fit.
For sure. Absolutely.
We don't live in that world, and
Yeah, yeah.
it's a good world, but it's just
Yeah.
not ours.
Yeah. Makes sense. Cool. Good luck.
Thank you. Maybe one more, maybe. If not. One more here. We'll do this as the last one.
Hi, thank you so much for your presentation. It was really insightful. My question would be, where do you think the management roles are going with the innovations in AI? And how do you think a person in management role should go about like improving himself or herself?
Yeah, I think that this is actually kind of the big question right now is like the individual contributor role with AI can contribute so much that it's like, what does that middle layer do? But if anything, it's a dream for someone in the management role to have the output of their team increase. So I don't think that there's actually inherently going to be that many changes other than the fact that executive and compensation will follow the laws of capitalism, which is the best product, the best, better, faster, cheaper always wins. And so for managers thinking about their team, better, faster, cheaper always wins. So if you want to drive results for the organization, I think it's the same. It's not the rules of the game haven't changed. The tools to play the game have changed, but the game is the exact same game. So I don't think there's a whole lot of changes other than like you got to be thinking about choosing to ignore it would be crazy. It's like my analogy for Bitcoin. People hate Bitcoin or they love it. There's no like I kind of dabble guy. There's like I put my whole life savings in Bitcoin and I wouldn't touch it. Charlie Munger called it rat poison. Okay. These are the two like disparities. My reaction is have whatever opinion on it you want. If you choose to ignore it, that's crazy to me. Choosing to ignore it would be crazy. I think it's the same thing with AI and managing your organization around it. Choosing to ignore it would be kind of insane, in my opinion.
Great.
Thank you
very much. Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're turning into a philosopher. You're sounding like that. So thank you very much. That's great. Good for you. Okay, guys, let's take a break. We're going to have a coffee out there. There's even some food, I think. So for you hungry students and others, just get yourself something there. We'll have a short break. We'll come back and then we have our panel. So we'll follow up from here. Okay. Thank you very much.